Wow. Well, welcome into Victory Monday. We don't know how to handle ourselves around these parts, you know? Good morning, DG. DG came in here like, all right, Pockets, I need a new open for the show. I got my shirt on. I got my hat on. Let me throw a headset on here and act like I know what I'm doing.
Because it's been a long time.
It really has.
It really has.
Well, they haven't won in the United States since Tom Coughlin got inducted into the Pride of the Jaguars against Indianapolis. So congratulations to the Jags for winning a football game, ugly as it was. And I understand, Tony. So a lot of the fan base are like, all you're doing is ruining the draft position. I understand that point of view. I really do. But you can't expect the players and the coaching staff to take that point of view with 5 weeks left in the season.
No, look, they're trying to win football games, and they're going to be trying to win the last 4 weeks of the season too, and they're playing a schedule where they're going to be able to win a game or two, down the stretch here. Tennessee yesterday was miserably bad. Like, I can't imagine what it sounds like up in Tennessee. I said it at about the end of the third quarter to the room I was in. I was like, I don't think I've ever watched a more boring NFL game.
I fell asleep.
It was pretty boring.
I fell asleep.
Like, this is so dull.
Pretty boring.
The fourth quarter was all right.
Yeah.
And it's cool to see the Jaguars get a win for the first time since that game over there in London against New England. It doesn't give me like a big bump. For the fans out there who the Titans are still at the top of the hate list, if they're still there with what happened with Houston last week, but if they're still at the top of that hate list, hate them. And you just beat them. And whatever it does to your draft position, it does to your draft position. And they're going to win another game or two down the stretch here. And they're going to wind up wherever they're going to wind up in the draft, ultimately, when everything is said and done. But they're not a team that's looking to replace the quarterback. So it's not as big a deal as it could be what their draft position is going to be. But I can't convince anyone else to feel the same way about it that I do.
Right. You don't have to. You can feel however you like about it. And that's what Reaction Monday is all about. But, I said last week, I'm just going to go in with the mindset I'm going to root for them to win.
Yeah.
And if they win, I'm going to be happy. And if they lose, I'm going to say, all right, I'll look to the draft compensation, right? But I'm not going to root for them to lose, Dave, and then find myself in a position where I'm going to be upset if they actually win a football game, because that's what we've been asking them to do.
They
all
blew an
season
opportunity to lose. What's wrong with them?
Right. They by the way, they made up for that plenty earlier this year.
Yeah.
But the defense showed up in particular this week. I mean, look, they've been the worst in the league statistically coming into this week. So I actually thought Josh Hines-Allen might have done Tennessee a favor right at the end of the half when he sacked Will Levis right onto his shoulder. And I thought, great, they're going to put Mason Rudolph in because it can't be worse than Will Levis has been at this point in time. But, he toughed it out, I suppose, and just kudos to the defense for, keeping them off the board. Gave up 8 straight runs to start the game, Dave. That's never a good thing.
That was not a good thing, and I thought, oh, my gosh, here we go again. But you know what? They bucked up. They tightened up the ship, and they said, no, we're not going to have this throughout the game like we've had in previous games. So good for them on that. Good for Jerry Jones, the way that he was playing. I mean, I'm like, I've heard this name, but I'm like, who is this kid? I hadn't seen him play. Oh, because he hasn't played much, which is good for us now because the way that he is playing really looked like a legit guy out there. So good for him. Hope we can get more of these.
Yeah, he stepped up a little bit, had a sack, obviously, some pass breakups, and had a nice game for himself.
He just popped. He was just popping. Like one of the guys out there, you just kept hearing his name. You kept seeing him making plays. And I just couldn't remember watching him before earlier in the season. So when I realized that he hadn't played much, I was thinking, okay, and he's young. He's not an old guy that just came in and is making plays. So I thought that was just a good thing for our defense.
Look, the craziest thing to me was hearing Doug Peterson in the post game yesterday talking to Bucky Brooks, and I don't hear, we don't hear his post game press conference live. Usually, he's doing that. We're talking about the game. We're in the immediate aftermath, and we wait, and then Bucky gets a chance to talk to the head coach. And Doug basically said, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he basically said we had to change the game plan to start making sure we got the ball to Brian Thomas Jr. in the second half. Then he said, well, people out there are probably going to go, well, why wasn't that the game plan to begin with? I guess you all are smarter than me. I don't know if I'm smarter than Doug Peterson, but I damn sure know you need to get the ball to Brian Thomas Jr. He had 2 targets in the first half. One of them was into double or triple coverage that got picked off, never had a prayer. Oh, and they threw it to him 10 times in the second half, and he caught 8, and they started to finally move the ball. What a surprise coincidence that was.
It's not rocket science. For the sake of getting the ball to who? Exactly.
Right.
Are we not getting the ball to Brian Thomas Jr.?
Well,
That's
it felt
crazy.
clearly in the first half, Tony.
Yeah.
We're going to use the running backs in the passing game, and we're going to use the tight ends in the passing game. And it's going to be that get it out of, and somebody called up in the postgame and said, you guys aren't giving Mac Jones enough credit. You got rid of the ball quickly. Yeah, he did, but he also made a couple of terrible decisions, and the Jags had no points on the board against the team that gave up 42 the week before until the fourth quarter. So if you think that was a good performance, man, we all have been beaten down and lowered our standards. It wasn't. It was good enough to win yesterday. Right. It was better than Will Levis. Well, maybe.
It depends on what stat you're looking at, right? Like in the quarterback rating, like the NFL stat, it's 66.6 for Mac Jones, 73.4 for Will Levis. So Will Levis just a little bit better. On the total QBR that ESPN has, Mac Jones was 32.9. So that performance was basically better than a third of performances in the NFL since they've been keeping that stat. And for Will Levis, it was 20.6. I mean, the quarterback play in yesterday's game was awful.
Atrocious.
Right. And the Jaguars won the game. And they made a couple plays at the end of the game when they finally got Brian Thomas Jr. involved. Thank goodness. It just took them a long time to get around to it. But when they finally did that, the offense didn't look absolutely pathetic for the last half of the game, but they were so bad in the first half.
Well, a few things, too. I mean, we've been saying feed Brian Thomas Jr. literally since
he got off the bus.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. But really, we were like, week 2, we're like, all right, we just got to start feeding this guy the ball more. Like, he's making plays. Let's just start feeding. You see what they did with Neighbors when they didn't feed him the ball, and then they started feeding him the ball, and then he started making all these amazing plays. We got the same kind of guy. So we've been saying that. So I don't know what coach is talking about. That was not a good look. But then also, Mac, he did not start this game off good, didn't play very good in the first half. And him and Will Levis, it was just when time came to make that play, to throw a touchdown, to keep the drive going, they weren't making those plays. Yes, they would make the play, on their own 30. They would throw, a 5-yard out. They would throw a deep ball here, get a completion. But when it counted, that's why the score ended up 10-6.
Right. Lowest scoring game in the NFL this year.
It was awful. That felt like 2000 Ravens, but with way less talent on the field, just all defense. It was just not a very entertaining game.
That drive they had that started inside their 5, their last drive of the first half. And when they got the first down, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
at least they got the first down. And then they kept going and they crossed midfield. And I was like, if they score points on this drive, it's the most unlikely drive of the season.
Right.
For the Jags.
Best drive of the
it's
season.
Crazy if they find a way to just score points somehow on this drive. And then you get the crazy play with 7 seconds left where he's getting hit. I don't blame him for trying to get rid of the ball, right? Because if he gets sacked, they're out of field goal range, and they might have a chance for a Hail Mary, right, at the end of the half. So they're in that kind of situation anyway. I don't blame him for throwing the ball, but it's a little bit high.
Yeah.
It's off Tank's hands again.
The problem with that ball is there's almost no positive outcome to it at all.
If he
Tank catches it, the calf's over.
Right.
Yeah.
And having watched Mac Jones and this Jaguars offense to that point in the game, I was like, that's a fair outcome. Right? Like at the end of that half, I'm like, that's a fair outcome. Like I said, I thought it was the most unlikely drive for points of their season.
Yeah.
If they found a way to get it, I was like, oh, that's a shame. That was
all this
more
said,
a shoulder shrug.
They should be, the players, the coaching staff, they should be deliriously happy today.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not like, you won. That's you win or you lose.
Yeah.
It's binary. And so the Jags got the accomplishment yesterday. They did the job that they are paid to do, which is win a football game. So I am not at all saying that they should go, oh, man, well, sheepishly, we played a bad team. Who cares?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. You got the win. And from their point of view, they want to stack as many as they can down the stretch. So we'll see what happens.
Hey, Mia here, and thanks so much for watching 1010XL Jaguars. For even more coverage of the Big Cats, be sure to subscribe to 1010XL Jaguars.